podcast studio, and I'm your guide, Marcus Murray. But I'm so excited about the authors that we have with us this afternoon, and it's so incredible because you've heard me talk about their story, and it has been so amazing just trying to get an opportunity to actually have them in the studio. So I'm just excited to be able to welcome the world to find out about the incredible book, which is called Silence the Lion. And this is available wherever books are sold. So on Amazon and all of the platforms that you can buy books. And it's so absolutely incredible. This book is Waging War on Addiction and Winning, and it's by Noel Borgia. And it's so incredible. You literally need to tell everybody you know to tune in, take a listen to this. I believe this book is going to be the game changer for so many people across the country. For once and for all, we get an opportunity to learn the mindset, the techniques, and the strategies to actually overcoming addiction. With that being said, we're going to break it on down, but I want to first start by introducing our guests. We'll start by talking about Sam. Sam or Salvatore and Noel Borgia were married in 2015. They're residents of Michigan. They have beautiful daughters, Valentina and Liliana. They're a wonderful Christian family, and together they've been able to spend a great deal of time changing the lives of others all around the United States. As a wife and mother, Noelle enjoys caring for her family, her household, and homemaking. And she's actually a 2003 Wayne State University grad holding a bachelor's of arts with a double major in Italian and language literature, as well as international studies. In 2024, a graduate of the Oakland Church School of Ministry, Noelle studied piano, music for decades. She's been a piano and vocal coach instructor, a versatile piano and vocalist, an amazing entertainer throughout metropolitan Detroit and in various parts of the country. And inspired by Sam's experience, Noel and Sam now run an amazing ministry called Shattered Mirror Ministries. And together, they're working to empower those struggling with substance abuse problems and addictions, and to see the same freedom from addiction that Sam has recognized and realized once he identified his true identity in Christ. So I'm so excited to have them on board. I do not want to delay another moment. And I just want to say welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thanks for having us, Marcus. It's our honor and a
We,
great privilege.
we
Thank you,
are,
Marcus.
yes, we are so very, very excited to have you here. And what I would like you to do, who wants to begin? Maybe we should open by having, who wants to go first? Well, let's hear about it from you, Sam. What was life like? I know your journey. Obviously, you know, our listeners are typically those that are over the age of 44, looking at life, trying to figure out where to go from here, realizing that they may have more years behind them than ahead of them, but yet making the decision, I'm going to go through radical transformation, self development, personal improvement, things of that nature. And yet they could be battling with addiction, like so many people.
Mhm.
Do you want to share your story?
Absolutely, and that's so true, Marcus. So many people are battling addiction, maybe in secret, and trying to hide the monster that it's turned into. Maybe it starts, so innocent. With me, it started with a motorcycle accident. I was in my young 20s and developed a severe pain medicine addiction, which led into street drugs and pretty much anything to mask or hide the pain. I was a bachelor most of my life until I met Noel. I was 35 years old, and I always say God sent me an angel when I met Noel. And I truly didn't have plans to ever be married or have a family. I just thought, for myself, this is it. I'm going to live a bachelor life. I always worked a lot. I worked hard. I've been cooking since I was 11 years old. So when I met Noel, you know, people always say, when you know, you know. And from the moment I met Noelle, I knew that I wanted her to be my wife. I wanted to make a family. I wanted to live the rest of my life with her.
Aw.
Unfortunately, that addiction lingers on. There's no way to just shut it down and put all that behind you when you're so in bondage with that addiction. And as much as I tried to hide it and tried to mask it, I was used to just living alone for all my life pretty much. I moved out when I was 17, and wasn't that I wouldn't say I wasn't ready to have a family, but I wasn't ready to leave my old life and start the new life. Even as much as I wanted to, addiction would never, let me do that. And unfortunately, that came to a head in 2018 after multiple tries and rehabs and inpatient and outpatient and psychologists and AA meetings, NA meetings. I mean, I really, really tried it all. And it got to a point, and this is all in the book, but it got to a point where I just didn't want to live this way no more. And I say that not in a good way. I didn't want to live anymore. I was ready just to call it quits. Didn't want to hurt nobody. I was tired of lying. I was tired of living in limbo of who the Lord saw that I was going to be and who I thought I would never be, and that's what addiction does to you. It'll just lie to you. It'll cheat. It'll make you into a person that you don't recognize anymore. You'll look in the mirror and you have no idea who's staring back at you. So fast forward,
Well, before you fast forward, I have to ask a question because
yeah.
there are so many people, that are actually stuck in that position where they feel that feeling of, it sounded like you were talking about a feeling of hopelessness and a feeling of helplessness. And there are people that are listening to us right now that are battling that exact same feeling. And what the purpose of the podcast is to remind people that you can overcome, that you're not doomed. So when you had those feelings like there was no reason for living, how were you managing that? And so you were married at that time?
Yeah. I got married to Noelle in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And during that whole time, I was on basically a masking drug. Doctors prescribed me a drug called Suboxone, which basically lets you live your life, without having to basically go into withdrawal, and it's for a short term thing. And the thing is with that is nothing short term. That developed, I was probably on that medicine for 5 years. And the nature of that beast was way worse than the original addiction that I had. So you're just basically trading one thing for, even worse addiction, and you don't realize it. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there right now that are on that and think that that's okay and that's just their life. And that's exactly what the doctors told me. And it's just like a diabetic, you have to take medicine every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until Noelle and I, we decided, hey, this medicine is not good for me. I live in a fog, like nothing's real to me, and I wanted to get off. And that started the snowball of, the whole hospital thing for me, and eventually to attempted suicide because it was just so bad. And it was like, I mean, we talk about being in chains and being in bondage. I mean, that's exactly how it feels. I mean, you're just in your own prison cell and there's nothing that you can do about it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And Noelle, how were you navigating during that period? And how could you see through that? Just take us back.
Well, like Sam said, when I initially met him, I was a divorced young mother with 2 children. So I was looking, for a fresh start. And Sam actually just showed up at my door one day. So we kind of felt like there was some divine intervention involved. It was the middle of a snowstorm. And when we did start our relationship very slowly, one of the first things we did was go to church. So, I knew that Sam wasn't quite as far along in his walk of faith as I was, but he just had this beautiful childlike faith to discover what the Lord had in store for us. So, over the course of 10 months, we met, we were engaged, and we were married 10 months later. And the thing is that we thought we were building our marriage and our foundation on the word of God and what he had in store for us. And we were so anxious to see his plan for us flourish, but it became evident rather quickly. I mean, even as early as the honeymoon, that there's something wasn't quite adding up with Sam. And I didn't really know anything about his past. He didn't really disclose anything to me other than he had been in a motorcycle accident, and I knew he took this little pill called Suboxone, but I didn't know about any sort of addiction or anything. All I knew was that he had pain after he came home from work at the end of the day. So fast forward over the course of 2.5 years, it just was like a snowball effect. At first, I mean, his personality was different. Like the person that I thought I was married and the person that he very quickly became, they were so far removed from each other that you couldn't even reconcile that they were the same person. Like I just kept asking myself, like, who did I even marry? Do I even know the person I'm marrying? And very shortly thereafter that, like Sam described, it was way beyond the Suboxone that he was taking. There was alcohol involved, and then it turned into pills, disappearances, until it finally came about 2 years into our marriage that he was actively using heroin, crack, cocaine, and it just continued to spiral there. Now, all along, we went to church, and I could see inside of Sam's being that he didn't want to hurt us this way. And I knew that he could sense that he wasn't the person that he wanted to be. And this wasn't the man that he promised to me, but it just seemed like he didn't know quite how to get there. So he was just like continually spinning his wheels. We would take a few steps forward and a few steps back. And, he'd go to church, and then the next day he'd be in bed for 2 days or withdrawing or whatever. But all along, he was chasing after the Lord, and I was chasing after the Lord. But the closer it seemed that he got to, aligning his life with what the Lord had in store for him, it just seemed like the enemy just would not let that happen. Until, like I said, it finally came to a point in March of 2018 when he tried to end his life. But all that time, I believed that this was not the plan that God had for us. I stood on my faith, I prayed, and I just kept saying, Lord, this can't be the end of it. You have to do something. And now by this time, things had come out, like you said, Sam, that he had tried all these rehab programs. I mean, dozens of rehab programs, inpatient, outpatient, psychiatrists, every group meeting, church meeting. He had gotten baptized, but then it came out he had criminal history, he had felonies, he went to boot camps, he went to jail. And all this time I'm thinking to myself, okay, I have no idea who the man I'm married to. He hasn't been truthful to me about a single thing at any point along the way. And it's just like bombs that just kept going off in our life. But I don't know what it was. I believe that the Lord just planted this seed of love inside of me, because from the outside, there was nothing, I hate to say it, but there was nothing to love about him. It became almost like a liability. Like, what's he going to bring into our life now to destroy it? But I still felt this conviction that the Lord sent me this man. He brought us together. He is going to see this relationship through. He is going to allow us to flourish and prosper. But as it kind of wound down towards the end, where it eventually happened that Sam overdosed, and then 3 months later, he tried to end his own life with a massive overdose. The prospect kept getting slimmer and slimmer. Yet still, I believed until, when he woke up in the hospital. Basically, he had died several times. They had to revive him, and he had a 5% chance to live. Now, by this time, go ahead,
No, I
Marcus.
was going to ask. So during all of this,
Yes,
um, people that know you in the community, and we've
yes,
talked about this, absolutely no one knew the magnitude of what you were going through.
right,
And through it all, as a wife, I've been married 31 years,
yes,
and I know what a Proverbs 31 woman, I know what that
yes,
means. She builds her house up and she doesn't tear it down.
right,
And I'm wondering, what was the mindset? Because there are people that are listening in that are battling with things. And the moment something is bad or something is wrong or something seems out of place, they're ready to abandon the ship. What was it that caused you to see more than what your eyes were revealing?
I don't know. I just think it's, like I said, as a result of this seed that the Lord planted so deeply inside of me and I've always been like, we're Italian, we're kind of loud. My parents always raised me to be this strong woman. And, looking back, a lot of people would, kind of said, well, why didn't you reach out for help? We could have helped you through it. But, when you're navigating something so catastrophic, when you're in that dark pit of despair, I almost felt like, and I describe it in the book, to bring other people into the fire with you is almost like, they're going to get burned too.
Wow.
So I just kept saying, I'm just going to wait on you, Lord. I mean, I literally, my only trust and my only hope was in him. But then now that I look back at it, I really feel like maybe that was part of the miracle. Like, I didn't put my hope in anything else, because I knew as the time went on, all these little things that we tried that I got my hopes up, they were just crushed instantly. We were back right where we started. Our only hope and our only resort was the Lord. And I do say this, that I feel like if you ever come to a place or a season in your life when you get to the point where there are no other options, there's nothing the world offers is going to work. When you get to that place where you can say, Lord, if you don't do this, if you don't heal him, he's going to die. If you get to that point where he's your only resort, I truly feel like that's how faith is birthed. Because, to know that it's just, I don't understand. I don't know how else to describe it, but I really feel like it unlocks a level of faith in you to see beyond what is in front of your eyes. You know what I'm saying? Because that's it. I trust in you, Lord. My hand's in your hand, and I know you got me.
That is so incredible. And now what has transpired as a result of this, by just sharing your story,
Yes.
it's actually changing lives all around the United States and in different parts of the world. We had the opportunity, LaDonna and I, to be at your book signing, and
Yes.
we were able to see the lives of people that you guys have touched and the impact that it's had, just them hearing about the breakthrough that you've experienced. And so share with us a little about what's been the most incredible thing on this journey since you wrote this amazing book called Silence the Lion. And I want to ask you some questions about this book, but what's been the most amazing thing that has happened since the book has been written?
Well, a lot of times people have these goals, and even on your podcast, I know you encourage people to follow their passions. There's no time to waste. But being an author or writing a book was never something on my bucket list, never something I even dreamed of. But as I went through ministry school, I had shared a brief testimony with the class, like a 3-page paper. And, we just have been continually sharing our story all along. And people have been so blown away, and their faith has been so increased by what the Lord has done in our lives. And it helps to see what he is capable and able and wants to do in their lives. And I just had this sensation, from the Holy Spirit, I believe, write the book, write the book. So
Hmm.
that was our main concern. And what the Lord assigned me was write the book and get it into as many hands as possible. From there, everybody wants, is writing books nowadays and self-publishing or indie publishing, whatever their route is. But miraculously, with no platform, no following, no background in writing, I got a traditional publishing contract with this book, assigned a publicist that has booked us interviews, TV, radio, podcasts all around the world. And I've often shied away from social media just because I don't like, to put myself out there in the spotlight. But I've realized what a blessing it has been, even like for you, Marcus, with this podcast. The Lord gives us all this technology at our disposal. And once he got me on that trajectory, we're able to share what the Lord has done to the four corners of the earth, right?
Wow.
So we're sending books out. We're sending physical copies to prisons. We just got the e-version of our book on over 1 million prisoner tablets in 1,200 jails across the country.
Wow.
So it's just been like, all I did was say, yes, Lord, I'm going to write the book. I'm going to share our story. And now, we're in the process of sowing the seeds out there and waiting for the harvest, because we just published in August. But it's just been every step along the journey has been nothing short of miraculous.
What is amazing about this book, Silence the Lion, and I'm going to actually, let's see if I can show the book this way. One moment. I'll put it right here so that it's a little easier to see it. But what's amazing about this book is it's not a little book. It's a very detailed breakdown. And how many pages are in this book?
I think like 309.
And what is amazing about it, the thing that actually blew my socks off as I was watching and reading, is that this particular book, it chronicles all the details of the entire journey, right? And then it tells the breakthrough that you experienced at the end as a result of defeating the lion of addiction. So, would you share with our listeners just some of the transformative blessings? Because I notice as I'm looking at Sam, you actually are in a very fancy outfit. You don't look like a guy that God has given life multiple times, that battled with any type of addiction. So I'm going to tell the viewers, what, you're like 21 years old. How old are you?
I'm 46 years old.
You're 46 years old, and after the win of battling and silencing this lion, what did God do for you?
I mean, look, our God is the ultimate restorer. I mean, as soon as I gave it all to God, and I started just not using the Lord as the last resort, just using him as for everything. He's my first resort. I go to him for everything. I got a little problem here, I go to the Lord, And as soon as I started doing that and following the path that he had already laid out for me, it was just up to me. And that's pretty much for everybody. I'm just a guy that, went through a lot, and at this point I'm just I'm sharing my scars to help others heal.
Ooh,
And
that's so good.
I feel like we're all meant to do something in life. We all have a special gift. I'm a chef. I love to be around food. It is a very high demanding, high stress job, but it's like a different person now. When last 8 years when I've been in the position that I'm in now, which the Lord opens the doors, and I went from cooking in a little hot kitchen and working 78 hours a week to being a corporate executive chef, overseeing
Amazing.
multiple properties and multiple chefs.
Amazing. And do you know what that
it's-
tells us? That actually bears truth to one of the tenets of our podcast, which is that God uses every hurt, as you mentioned, every scar, every blemish, every bruise, every setback, every tragedy, everything that God has allowed to happen in our lives. He uses all of that for not just his glory, but ultimately for our benefit. So what you have now been able to do, you and Noel, you've been able to take a journey of most people couldn't have handled it, right?
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
you went through, Noel, the majority of people could not handle that,
Right.
and they would not have been able to carry that load. You were actually selected because you can see that God knew you had the ability to carry the load so that the story of the transformation could be told.
Yes.
Now, I believe everyone listening and everyone that tunes in, we all have an obligation to get this book into the hands of people that need it. We can't take this lightly. You know what happens? There is a saying that when we know better, we do better.
Mhm.
Now I just want your feedback, Noel, on this concept because you guys are familiar with AA and you're familiar
Yes.
with the big book.
Right.
AA actually made the understanding of addiction, they made it valid. They actually validated the
Mhm.
concept that
Mhm.
addiction is actually a challenge. It's a real thing. It's not just a choice that people are
Mhm.
making. But
Mhm.
in this book and through Shattered Mirror Ministries, what
Mhm.
you guys have done is you've gone a step further and you did not stop at people just being identified as addicts. You're taking them through the process of deliverance. And
Mhm.
that is what's so amazing as I'm sitting here and I'm talking to people every single day about transformation and restarting their lives and becoming all that God has given them to be and but there are people that are still trapped because they're dealing with addictions, not only rather drug addiction. Some people are dealing with pornography addiction, social media addiction, food addiction. They're dealing with all other kinds of vices, and they're addicted, and they don't know what to do. And do they have the same feelings of shame and personal disappointment and different things like that? Is that the same, or is it something different?
Yeah, absolutely, Marcus. And you're so right. The Lord doesn't waste anything at all. Um, I've been so blessed, and I have open door policy, so everybody in my marketplace knows that they can come talk to me about anything, and I get that a lot. And I'm going to tell you right now, there is no difference between drug addiction, pornography addiction, gambling addiction, food addiction. It all does the same thing. It destroys who you are.
Mm.
It destroys you to the core and changes the way you think, the way you talk, the way you look at things, the way that you love, the way that you hurt. I mean, it changes everything about you. That's an addiction. So there's no difference in my eyes, and I've been through it all um, because I see the pain in people's eyes. I see the pain when they just can't put that phone down and they can't stop looking at their pornography, even though they have a beautiful marriage, kids, beautiful job. It cuts you to your core and it changes who you are. So that, in my eyes, there's no difference. I mean, people can downplay things, but if it stops you from being who you're
Right.
supposed to be, and it puts you in bondage and it puts you in shackles, that's an addiction.
So, in
And
reality, each and every person, we've all been called to do something. And just because we're over the age of 44 and beyond, it doesn't mean that you've missed it. As we're seeing right now through your lives, Noel, we're seeing that God is not a God where you're being forced to start over. He
Right.
just puts you in a position so that you can start again, that you
Exactly.
can actually, God will pick up the pieces of the shattered mirror, right? He'll
Exactly.
actually put those pieces back together and he'll use it for his glory as evidenced by what he's doing in your life. So for the listeners, the people that are feeling like whatever the addiction is they're dealing with is so great, they don't know how to break out of it. And some people have been told that once you're this, they put a label on them. This is how you identify
Yeah.
yourself. Hi, my name is John and I am a
Mhm.
recovering pornography addict, or I'm a recovering food addict, or whatever it may be. Is
Mhm.
that so? You're saying that it is possible to be freed, totally delivered, so that you can now be identified by your purpose versus your pain?
Absolutely.
That's
That's
right.
what we like to say. You know, a label may be what explains you, but it's not what defines you.
Come
And we
on.
don't like to attach any labels to our names that the Lord didn't write for us because, you know, addiction or whatever it is, pornography addiction, sexual addiction, you know, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, it may be something that you struggle with, but it's not who you are. But if you can, that's kind of the significance of the cover of our book, which you have in your hands. So the lion on the cover represents Satan embodied in the form of addiction.
Mhm.
So when you are struggling with these addictions, you look at yourself in the mirror and you only see the lion staring back at you because it strips all the parts of your identity away that you have held true about yourself. So
Wow.
like when Sam, you know, would look in the mirror when he was struggling with addiction, he would look at himself and say, I'm a failure, I'm an addict, I'm a junkie, I'm a criminal, I'm never going to get clean, and eventually I'm better off dead. You know, and then me as the loved one of the addict, you begin to question, why doesn't my husband love me? Am I not pretty enough? I'm not young enough, I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
That's what the enemy likes, all the lies the enemy likes to write over your life and define you as. And even our ministry, Shattered Mirror Ministries, represents destroying the image the enemy has sold you and seeing yourself as a child of God. Because what would happen if you allowed God to define you? If you were able to lift your vision to see the way he defines you, to see yourself, you know, like he sees you, you know, what would that look like in your role as a parent, as a child, as a coworker, as an employee, as a boss? It gives you a higher perspective and a higher lens to view yourself through, the lens of scripture, a biblical perspective. And it allows you, it gives you power and authority to rewrite everything you thought you knew about yourself and defy all the odds of the world. You know, it's just when you are able to tap into that raised expectation and that higher vision and that bold faith, that's how healing and deliverance are birth. That's what we truly believe. And that's kind of our motto is, you know, people will tell you that you have to spend a lifetime in recovery, but that has not been the case for us. Like once we aligned ourselves, once Sam aligned himself with what the Lord's vision and plan and purpose for his life was, it was like he'll describe, like a smooth shot straight to the top, like getting on a newly paved highway, hands-free. Now, not to say that you're not going to have problems and things along the way, but you know who you can go to. But it's not stretching recovery out as this label and, oh, I'm an addict, and 25 years later, I'm still an addict. That's not what we saw. The Lord, I don't believe, wants you to spend the rest of your life in recovering from whatever substance you are. And we know that all addictions are basically the antithesis of your podcast. No time to waste, Marcus, right?
Right.
Addictions are the thief of time because they want you to get in that vortex where all your time is spent, all of your energy is spent on feeding that addiction and not being able to fulfill what God's purpose is for your life.
Wow, that is so good. My goodness. That's a mic drop moment right there. So the purpose of the addiction is to keep you so off purpose,
Yes,
so off focus and off task to just keep you distracted.
yes,
That
exactly.
is incredible. I have to ask you, Noel, where can, for example, we own a company and when we went to your book signing, we had to buy a case of the books because it just made sense. It absolutely made sense. You know, when you've been put in a position of influence, you have to have the tools to share with people that need to be freed.
Yeah.
And when we heard the details of Sam's journey and the power in this book and how it connects to journaling, you actually journaled the whole history of the
Yes.
whole experience. I said to my wife, LaDonna, I said, babe, we've got to get a case of these books. Everybody needs to have one.
Yeah.
So if there are companies that want to purchase books, how do they make a purchase? Because I believe if we think about this, look at our highest producing and highest, most
Yes.
productive employees. If we take a look at them, everybody is connected to someone that is struggling with addiction. And
Yes.
as a result of that connection, it actually impairs their productivity. So if we could put the
Absolutely.
tool in everyone's hand,
Right.
then now they would have the equipment necessary to destroy the lion of addiction. So
Absolutely.
how can a company get some of these books? That's what I need to know. And then how can the rest of us get books?
Well, you can go to our website, www.shatteredmirrorministries.com, and it has links to all the ways that you can purchase books. It's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever books are sold. But actually, through the ministry, we have ministry pricing. So if a company would choose to make a donation, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, fully tax exempt, and we'd be happy to ship a case of books anywhere in the US or the world, actually.
Wow, that
Yeah.
is so beautiful. And then I I just I never even got to any of the questions. I actually sent you probably 15
Oh, gosh.
questions that we wanted to ask you, but the story is so compelling, you're gonna have to come back to answer some questions.
Okay, we will. We will.
All right? All
I'll try
right.
not to be at work this time. I'm sorry about the background noise for your listeners.
No, absolutely perfect. It just shows us that God has taken you to amazing places. And this
Yes.
is only the beginning. And I just want you two to know that you are the embodiment of what we're talking about each and every day. You did
Wow.
not let anything define you. You made a
Right.
decision that you would allow whatever had happened in your life to
Yes.
become a testimony of God's greatness. And
Amen.
now you're living on purpose. I'm so
Yeah.
proud of your transformation and so proud of the inspiration that you've shared with us all. So we're going to close by acknowledging our sponsor, Care Michigan. That is a Michigan-based company that specializes in assisting those that have been severely injured in motor vehicle accidents. So if you or anyone you know has been severely injured in an accident, please reach out to Care Michigan and let them know that you heard about them on the No Time to Waste podcast. You can reach them at www.caremichigan.com. And as usual, what we say to you each and every day that we end the podcast, make certain to go forward and seize the day. Thank you, Noel, and thank you, Sam.
Thanks for
Thank
having us,
you.
Marcus.
Awesome.
Marcus, thank you for everything you do, man. We love
Oh,
you.
you're the best. Thank you.
You're the best.